This is Riley Evan Ross. For a while, I didn't really believe much in the power of social media. I've talked about that on this show in various ways. I always liked Instagram because it seemed like a place where you can naturally curate things that you want to see or places and accounts that you find inspirational. And it seems like a lot better vehicle than Twitter or Facebook for that sort of thing. And a little while ago, the creative people I know, admire, and follow on Instagram all started collectively pointing to this one account called the Natstronaut, as in like Natalie and astronaut. And it was an account that, it was filled with, simple yet amazing drawings of Oklahoma City landmarks as well as beautifully set photos. The Natstronaut is Natalie Kent. She is the creative director of Nominee, an Oklahoma City-based branding agency. Natalie is also the founder of ZeroWasteOK, a social media effort claimed at reducing the amount of waste in Oklahoma City by raising our collective consciousness and awareness about waste and consumption. Natalie and I dive a little bit into the startup community in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. It does require that level of being intentional and asking yourself, are we even moving in the right direction of what we want to be doing? Are we taking on the projects that we want to get 10 more of? Our CEO, Matt Stansberry, is really good about that kind of perspective and being able to ask those questions and kind of leading the way with that. And then same thing for me, making sure, are we getting the projects that are going to drive our portfolio further, and working with people where we're really not only just like doing well for our clients, but even doing well for our city. Are we really making an impact and doing impactful work, or are we just doing cool work?
And also her long-term goals through ZeroWasteOK.
So we really do try and round it out where it's like not only just the like environmentally friendly side, but the economics of it, and making it really approachable for everyone. Like I talked to a guy he's from southern Oklahoma, he's a fisherman, and he said that he gets plastic bags on his trout line, and that he hates that. Now he wants to use reusable bags because he sees how that frustrates him and his experience, but not making it look like, oh, this is just for hippies and and a bunch of liberal people. It's like it really is. We try and make it for everyone.
This is Y'all Okay. Howdy, friends and neighbors. Welcome to Y'all Okay, the podcast about Oklahoma and the people connected to it. I'm so glad you're here listening to this. There's so many things you could be listening to, and the fact that you chose this show, I really appreciate it. Natalie and I met, like many of my guests this season, a long time ago. It was actually back in August, I think. We met at Ellis Island Coffee and Wine Shop in Edmond. Nominee at the time was located in Edmond and like right next to Ellis Island or right near there. And I'm so glad it worked out because Ellis Island is actually a pretty cool vibe. They have great coffee, wine, delicious snacks. They also have seasonal beverages available. Back when I recorded this show, I said I'm going to be I'd be happy to plug your like pumpkin spice and maple items. But I've since passed that. But I'm sure their coffee, whatever they have right now, February, is still delicious. So if you're in the Edmond area, I would highly recommend going by there. Natalie and I covered a lot of territory. We talked about her background, her art, the startup community in OKC, diversity in the branding and design industries, and then we talk about her zero waste movement. We also had a very funny, brief moment about national politics towards the end of the show. And although we had this conversation in August, the conversation is still unremarkably applicable today. When you're not visiting Ellis Island for your coffee, you can have wonderful coffee at your house with a subscription to Roast Scout. Head on over to roastscout.com/y'allok for 1 month free of a 3-month subscription to some of the absolute best coffee from around the United States. Each month, you get a small batch of independent roasted coffee from small little independent roasteries and coffee shops sent right to your front door. I have gotten it 3 months now, maybe 4, and each bag of coffee has been absolutely delicious. They come in whole bean form, so you just grind them and brew them up, and they've been fantastic, every one. So check it out at roastscout.com/y'allok for 1 month free. And please enjoy my conversation with Natalie Kent.
Here, I'm going to pivot. This is going to be a hard pivot. And I don't mind talking about all this stuff, you know. But I'm here talking with Natalie Kent. Thanks for meeting me, by the way. You are correct me if I'm wrong. And sorry, there might be some background noise here. We are recording this at Ellis Island Coffee Shop in Edmond, and it's a really nice place. Do you come over here often?
Oh, occasionally, yeah.
It's pretty nice. They got mugs, good coffee, wine. It's not just a coffee shop. They have wine and beer here for the afternoons. But you work just around the corner at Nominee, which is a design studio, creative studio.
So we're actually a branding agency.
Okay.
So we originally, when we started, it was heavy on the web. So before I worked there, they did a lot of web work, websites. And I started with Nominee about 4 years ago, and we kind of added more of the branding design side to it. And then over the past several years, especially in the last year, we've really focused on exclusively branding. Web is a part of that, design is a part of that, but it's also the strategy that comes with it of,
Right.
you know, what's your strategy as a brand? How do you communicate and talk and your messaging? That then all filters down into, by the time you get to a logo or a website, you know what you're doing and you know who you are.
Yeah.
And that there's just so much more to a brand than just a logo and some fonts and colors, but
Yeah.
it's even how you structure your business. So we help with that.
So yeah, I mean, I worked with right out of my master's degree program at Baylor. I started working with this group of guys called Blue Bike, which ended up. You would never hear of them. They don't exist anymore. But down in Waco, and it was a lot of branding, environmental design. But it was like a lot of consultative. I don't think we went deep enough into like understanding the why and the how and the what. But is that something that you all do? Like, I just got done talking to, I was telling you off mic, Madison Schultz, and you know, one of her favorite books is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And just like that exploration of like finding your why do you do something, and how to, and then work on the how to part. So
Exactly.
like, what kind of depths do you all go into?
Yeah, so when it comes to brand strategy, I mean, we ask a lot of those questions and dive deeper. And especially even before we get to that point, filtering through our proposals and who we actually want to work with. If you're just in the business of just making money and that's your why, like that, you're probably not going to be a good fit. It's hard for us to just get inspired by that.
Yeah.
So it really is like you're led by your passion, and making money is a positive side effect. And hopefully by clarifying how you talk about your passion, what drives you every day, why you show up to work every day, once you get that and you can explore that, then you'll be successful tenfold.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was looking at you guys as oh god, y'all's. That's even worse. I was looking at your list of clients, and it's like a really impressive list of clients and clientele that you guys have worked with. And I think I saw Radiohead on there. Like, to what degree did you guys work with Radiohead?
That was one of our earlier projects. That was before me, leaning heavy on the advertising side.
Still amazing though.
Yeah, but definitely an opportunity that helped us really get into the music space.
Yeah.
Even kind of before I started working there, they also worked with like Sony Japan and stuff like that. Again, little projects, no heavy lifting branding at that point, but still cool getting the foot in the door for those.
This is kind of amazing. I was the parallels. I was talking to Doug Sirocco, and he's going to be, you know, Doug?
Yeah, I love Doug.
Okay. Super cool dude. But we were sort of talking, you know, he's got an IP firm with a headquarters here in Oklahoma City. And we were just talking about how, I mean, most IP firms are Chicago, New York City, like San Francisco, big time, especially with the tech intellectual property. And so the fact that they have a big IT firm or IP firm here in Oklahoma City with whose footprint is relatively small. So even though 80% of their clientele are within this 500-mile radius, 80% of their revenue comes from outside of their 500-mile radius. And he had made the point that the economic downturn of 2007, 2008 was actually really good for them because people needed a premium product, in his case, intellectual property legal services, but they couldn't pay the premium price anymore. And so they were looking to trim the fat where they could, and they could get just as good of a product here in Oklahoma City. And it seems like there's a parallel with design and brand strategy and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. We've kind of found a similar thing. Like, we see that as some of our next big ventures is outside markets out of Oklahoma City, even like to Dallas, which isn't that far away,
right.
But design is still a lot more expensive, and that brand strategy that you might get in New York or LA is just going to be so much more. We've actually even had a lot of people who currently work at agencies in Seattle, San Francisco apply to work with us, not only because of the lower cost of living here,
sure.
but also because from the people that we've talked to, they felt like just the markets for design is just getting a lot more focused on only tech.
Yeah.
And there's not as many of like just really unique, different kind of projects out there. There's so many new businesses starting in Oklahoma that we're able to work on such all kinds of diverse markets. So that was just kind of something that was really attracting them here.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive. I feel like the strategy and the brand around the ZeroWasteOK podcast, I think it probably drives creative people up the wall. I was talking with Clint from Clover Partners. So I know Clint and Scott. Clint also spoke at the Ignite thing, but Scott Scrivener just got a friendship with him, and they were like, hey, your logo needs some tightening up. And I was like, yeah, no, it does for sure. And I'm working on that. And so it's a process, guys.
Those are good guys too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. Hey, so where'd you grow up?
So I was born just outside of LA in La Habra, California. I lived there just for a couple years, and then I pretty much grew up in Houston, so I consider myself a Texan.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, definitely grew up in Houston, and, I loved how it was a big city, very international feel, but still, it's in the South, it's Texas.
Yeah, for sure.
I went to school in Denton, and then right out of school I moved up here.
Is that University of North Texas?
Texas Women's University.
Texas Women's University, okay.
Yep.
You always see those signs, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't get the attention of the big green, well, now multiple big green monstrosities right there.
Both good schools, though. Yeah,
that's cool.
UNT had a great design program. TWU has a good design program. And one thing I loved about TWU, because it is men and women, that's
cool.
a big misconception. But it's also one of the most racially diverse schools in Texas.
Oh, for real?
Consistently in like the top 5 or 10.
Oh, nice. What did so it sounds like you always wanted to do design, or something creative?
Yeah. So I've always been an artist, and I've always been in drawing and illustrating. I initially went to school for something else, just like kind of for job security. My parents kind of pushed me that way, and then I realized, nope, I just need to stick to design.
That's great.
And that was a happy medium of doing more than just trying to be a fine artist and be a painter full time. And it really was able to marry up my more kind of type A half of myself, where it's like you're talking with clients and you're managing projects and big creative vision, but you can still be really creative on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you found fulfillment there. So what's the path? Like, as soon as you got done with Texas Women's, it was, I know professional development and looking for jobs when you're a college kid is just like the worst, I feel like, especially depending on the timing. But did you find more opportunity? Like, was Oklahoma an intentional choice or what?
So when I graduated college, there was no job opportunities at all. It felt like anywhere.
What year are we talking here?
2011.
Okay, yeah.
So it was still kind of coming out of a little bit of recession. Nobody wanted to hire someone just brand new right out of school. I didn't take my internships very seriously, and so that's something I totally preach to college students. Every student I talk to is, you need to take that seriously.
First, get an internship. Second, take it seriously.
Do a good job. Yeah. I mean, because really, I took some and they were easy. I didn't learn a ton, and it wasn't anywhere I wanted to work, and I just kind of got the easy A and did that. So that really hurt me kind of coming out of college too. So not only did I not have the networking, I didn't have the market for that either. So no, I was looking all over the place and, totally open to move anywhere. My family lived in Texas. We didn't have any other family nearby. Like, they moved there for work too. So I was kind of familiar with just moving into a community and not knowing anyone.
Cool.
When I did get a job here, and it was the only job that hired me, it was very much like you're just coming into a state, nobody, you have no friends, and kind of like start from the ground up and okay, it's up to you. If you fail, it's on you, and if you succeed, it's on you.
Yeah.
But it's your choice. You can't just go home and cry and just think it's going to get better. It's you got to do that every day. So it took a lot of work, and then I ended up freelancing for a little bit, and then eventually found Nominee and did some freelance with them, and then so that's where I am now.
Oh, cool. So what was the state of Nominee when you showed up? Like right now, so we're sitting right here off of Broadway, and in a downtown sort of idyllic. Would this be bucolic? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'll probably have to edit that out, but it's nice and
quaint downtown.
Yeah,
Edmond.
and but there's a lot of construction going on. But I know that I realize that a lot of this is new. So what was it like when you first rolled in?
Well, when I first started there, it was just two people at Nominee. So our web developer and Matt, my boss, CEO.
Yeah.
There was a photo studio in the back where there was a photographer who would do family photos and newborn photography in the very back. So they shared a studio space. I mean, very much startup mode.
Yeah.
And here I am leaving a very large company with full benefits, doing design work, and wondering, do I need to take a risk on this startup agency, no benefits, there's two people, there's a photo studio in the back with another, is this going to work?
Yeah.
But I did. It ended up being for the better. Edmond has definitely grown a little bit since we've been there. Obviously, places like Ellis Island are new, the Patriarch is new, and this whole building that we're currently sitting in right now was all kind of developed. This was just a gravel lot.
Right.
But the exciting part is the way our agency has been able to grow. We're going to be moving downtown to Film Row, where
cool.
we're going to really be able to expand. We're going in the MGM building, which is across the street from Paramount, so kind of by Joey's Pizza.
Yeah, absolutely.
That little corner. But that's a huge step for us because I still feel like we look like we're in startup mode in the building we're at, and that'll just be a whole other level to match kind of the caliber that we're working at right now.
So do you feel... I'm just now thinking of this. It's easy to lose sight. Like, you're obviously helping clients, just discover who they are and stay true to who they are, or really just develop who they are, and then hopefully they would stay true to that. So do you guys have to have check-ins with yourselves? Hey, we're also a business, or is it just is it natural? Do you have to be intentional about asking those questions of who we are, that sort of thing? Or
absolutely. We're the ones who are telling people they need to update their websites and update their signage and really tap into who they are. And we still need to do those things too.
Yeah.
It does require that level of being intentional and asking yourself, are we even moving in the right direction of what we want to be doing? Are we taking on the projects that we want to get 10 more of? And so, it's definitely something you have to ask yourself and just kind of check in. And a lot of people, a lot of businesses, you're doing the day-to-day, you're just in it every single day, and you're not taking that step back. Our CEO, Matt Stansberry, is really good about that kind of perspective and being able to ask those questions and kind of leading the way with that. And then same thing for me, making sure, are we getting the projects that are going to drive our portfolio further, and working with people where we're really not only just doing well for our clients, but even doing well for our city and the areas that we're in. Are we really making an impact and doing impactful work, or are we just doing cool work?
Right.
And there's a big difference with that too.
Yeah, that's a really big difference. I had sort of a question. I mean, if you don't want to get into it, that's cool. But if you do want to get into it, better. No pressure. So coming from, you mentioned going to Texas Women's and the fact that they had a lot of diversity, race diversity, gender diversity, that sort of thing. So what's it like in the brand management, creative design world? Do you notice imbalances, like to the same degree that women in STEM are having issues? Like, what does it look? What's the landscape look like?
Design as a whole has a race problem. Absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Very, very mostly white. There's definitely, it does skew a little more male. I do think there's a lot more women coming into design and branding, but absolutely, there's a race problem. It's across the board. I see the same thing with tech companies too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big piece.
I mean, computer science. You could just
Exactly.
watch what's Silicon Valley. I mean, I know it's a narrative, fictional show, but it's. I was talking to my buddy Nico. Well, he's not just my buddy. He's married to my cousin, but he works for Apple, and they're like, no, it's a funny show, but it's seriously like very representative of what you see in tech.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think that is a big problem, and even though we try to make sure we're actively hiring a diverse team, because diverse teams are stronger, and especially with branding, you're going to get more perspectives on things that if you only hire the same type of people that think like you and look like you, you're not going to get.
Right.
I always talk about that's how something like the Pepsi commercial with Kendall Jenner,
right,
where people there wasn't enough perspectives or no one spoke up that this was a bad idea.
Yeah, they felt that was a very tone deaf thing.
And either that's a cultural problem of we can't just speak up if something's wrong, or we don't have enough perspectives to see this from all angles.
Right.
So I see that as crucial, but we're not even getting the talent applying, even just getting the applicants in, let alone people that we can hire. So I do see it as something where when we're talking about school funding in Oklahoma and cutting funds, arts is one of those things that immediately get cut.
Yeah.
And the thing for me is that we hire people so much based on potential. I don't care where you went to school. I don't care what your GPA was. I could care less. I keep that in mind, like if you did go to school and, that's a great school for this, but we hire people all the time based on potential. Yeah. And one of our interns, who's now a full-time brand designer, we hired him when he was like 18. He went to college for a semester, and we were like, you're really talented. We would hire you full-time if you want. And he was like, absolutely. Cool. So we just see that as like people aren't even being given the opportunity to really explore the arts and be creative. It's like those programs are getting cut or not funded, and it starts there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there you go. There you go, people.
I'll be straight up about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a problem.
Let's talk about Zero Waste OKC.
Yeah.
You were on the news. Which one was it? KFOR?
Yes, KFOR. Morning show. Friday morning show.
I'll edit that blank out. I was just kidding. So it's explain it to me of what I'll tell you how I came to it. I came to it because someone I know on Instagram was like, hey, follow. Actually, I came to you first to the Natstronaut profile because you spoke at Creative Mornings. Mm-hmm. I think it was like the first Creative Mornings in Oklahoma City, or one of the first, because it's still in the initial stages. And I was really taken with your pictures of houses that you. Tell me about we'll get to Zero Waste OKC. Talk to me about the houses, because the most recent one as of this recording was like you posted one the other day of almost like an A-frame 2-door house with this incredible garden. Mm-hmm. Can you describe what that art is and all that?
Yeah, so that's a total side project of mine. Basically, it started around the fact that really what it came down to in hindsight was just really connecting with the community here. And I think for the longest time, I just felt like a fish out of water and, I miss the bigger cities and, things like that. So it was my way of like, okay, really explore, like, what are the cool things around here? I love architecture. And then also wanting to try a new style of art. So totally just low key, like, I'm just going to do this for myself and it's fun. And I slowly picked out places that I really enjoyed that had just cool, unique architecture, trying it in that new style, and started on 23rd Street. Okay. So doing businesses all around there. So Cuppies and Joe was the first one. The Drake was the second one. Okay. And just doing all these little businesses. And what I really found as it developed was like people really had strong connections to a lot of these places. Some certainly more than others. And so people would, were asking for prints and all sorts of stuff, or wanted to buy the rights to the art to be able to use it on some of their pieces. Which was a total surprise to me. I do a lot of commissions, and so home commissions. So that one that you just mentioned was one of them with the garden. That's Linda Vodder, who's basically the gardening guru of Oklahoma City. But yeah, like the whole thing around like places and homes that have that significance to you and you love. So many people would say like, we had our first date here, or this was the first home that we bought. And it's just so much more
that's cool
than just like something that's like fun. So
yeah. And is there a word for that style of artistry, or is it drawing? Are you doing it on like a iPad or?
Yeah, it's just Adobe Illustrator, vector art. Yep, monoline style, and you just kind of really the unique part of it was like finding the right color palette and knowing where to simplify. Because sometimes people go really literal and not finding the nice balance where you get the essence of it. You don't have to just be exact with everything. And that's the fun part too with the homes is that like if there's something someone really likes about their home, what's that one little detail that like makes it them? Yeah. And then you really kind of simplify all of it. So it's been fun.
Oh, okay, cool. I mean, that sounds great. But does this tie into, again, we'll get to zero waste. So like, I mentioned you spoke at the Creative Mornings event. What'd you speak on?
Curiosity.
Curiosity. And just the importance of curiosity, or like what?
Yeah, it was like, the importance of having a curious mindset and having that beginner's mindset kind of with everything you do. And so whether it's like what you're looking at and just being inspired by things every single day, but it was kind of that broader view of curiosity.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm curious. Awesome segue about... Nice. So Zero Waste OKC. I follow the water company out of Tulsa.
Yeah.
And they seem to be like doing some really cool work with, trying to reduce specifically bottles. But there's also like a whole waste reduction component to what they're doing. So tell me about how this came about, what you're doing, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So Zero Waste OKC and the concept of zero waste starts with nothing goes to a landfill. So that's the whole idea. That's not possible right now. So our current economy is not that way. That's just things go straight. It's linear. It goes to a landfill. The idea of what we're trying to do is how can we implement a zero waste mindset, get people's foot in the door in Oklahoma. You see those places that start in San Francisco or they start on the coast, and people I think in the South forget that you can start that here too. And then basically it's like whether it's ideas for composting or even just simple habits like bringing a reusable bag, reusable cup. How do you get those people just to take that one small step or do what they can do? There's also a lot of inequality or accessibility issues where we want to make sure we keep everyone's perspectives in mind.
Right.
So some farmers markets might not be accessible for everyone or might be too expensive. So we always try and keep that perspective in mind too with it, where it's like Walmart might be the only thing you can have and that's fine. How do you shop more mindfully when you go to Walmart?
Yeah. So creating a consciousness about waste reduction or cutting corners. Like I like following it because I feel that we've done a pretty okay job in our household of doing things. So we shop in bulk, and so for anyone that shops at Sprouts, or like they know that they can do a bulk section, but there's also like plastic bags. It's typically how you do it. So one of the things that we did was like, those brown paper bags that you would like kind of take your lunch in or whatever. So we just basically have those and we reuse them for most of our dry good products. So the codes that you have to write down on the little tab, they don't change. So if you're going to get green lentils, you can have your green lentil bag, nice. and it weighs nothing, and we can just like constantly reuse those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely like so many easy ways. Like I think people just think, zero waste, it sounds so intimidating, and it's like any of those small steps. Like I tell people, eating leftovers is zero waste. Yeah. And that's super easy and it's super economical. Like it's a win-win. So I think it's really redefining how you think about waste, realizing all of the ways that you have wasteful habits, especially with single use, and doing what you can to reduce it. Like, okay, maybe reducing certain types of bags might not be doable for everyone, but maybe they can say, oh, I'm going to bring a reusable coffee cup when I go to the store, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you can do that one thing.
And here's how like this manifests in a legitimate way, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but what I'm saying is, like, I was about to make one decision, but then because I had awareness of it, I made a different decision. My wife and I, we recently went to Northern California. So you mentioned San Francisco. We spent a few days in Berkeley, which oddly enough, like hippie place, very left of center. A lot of trash though. Like, I was really surprised at how much trash there was next to the curbs in Berkeley.
Yeah.
I was like, I expect more out of you guys. But that's not to bash Berkeley, and we had a fantastic time there. But we also went to Yosemite and, like, got really connected with nature and stuff. And as we caught a flight out of Dallas, we were driving back from Dallas up I-35, and we're big tea drinkers. And so we stopped at a Brahms, and we were like, let's get some teas. And we already had cups in the car, right?
Yeah.
So we already had cups, and we were just going to, like, empty out the one cups. But here's the thing, like, if you guys are big tea drinkers and you go to Brahms, you know that they will sell you a gallon of tea of just, like, it's in a plastic bottle. But if you do the math of, like, 1 gallon-sized plastic tub versus 4 styrofoam cups, which is what you're going to get anyway, I mean, really, the resources that went in to make that plastic bottle, I don't know the facts of it, but it was just kind of like, in my mind, it was a 1 to 4 calculation.
Absolutely.
Or a 1 to 4.5, given the fact that we would get plastic straws as well, and throw the paper away that went into the plastic straw. It was just like this mathematical calculation in the moment of, like, let's just share this 1 gallon size tub of tea instead of, like, get 4 new drinks. And I'm confident it saved us money too, by, like, I don't know, probably like $4.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so any kind of bulk shopping, larger sizes, you're reducing the total amount of packaging that's used.
Yeah.
And that you're probably saving money as well. I mean, so it's just kind of a win-win. And I don't think people realize, like, if you're a Sprouts shopper, even like bulk spices, the savings is insane.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even think about, oh, it's probably a little bit cheaper. It's like, no, it's like half the price.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, and people don't realize that.
And you get more stuff too. So you can, like, in the bulk spice section, you can get smoked paprika, which you usually can't get from McCormick's.
Yeah,
or
absolutely. Or
whatever
turmeric or something like that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anything down to, like, bulk shopping, or, like, I know, even for example, for me, it's like if I go to Starbucks and, it's something that it's out of my habit. Maybe I just go on a whim after a meeting. I realize I don't bring my reusable cup. I might not even go. I might say, oh, I don't really need that.
Yeah.
Save myself some money too.
Right.
So,
I'll make it when I get home.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. Yeah.
So we really do try and round it out where it's like not only just the, like, environmentally friendly side, but the economics of it.
Right.
And making it really approachable for everyone. Like, I talked to a guy he's from southern Oklahoma, he's a fisherman, and he said that, he gets plastic bags on his trout line and that he hates that. Now he wants to use reusable bags because he sees how that frustrates him and his experience. And but not making it look like, oh, this is just for hippies and, and a bunch of liberal people. It's like, it really is, we try and make it for everyone. So.
Yeah, legitimately. It's, if you can cut down on that, everybody wins. There was my position on it, there was a little bit of a backlash, not necessarily from conservatives, but from the disabled community about the use of plastic straws and how there are some people that legitimately need them, which is true. I would like to hear your thoughts on that. And since you're trying to run a movement, what is the responsible response to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would just say that that's a completely valid perspective and something that needs to be listened to. I always feel like when a group of people who have a certain experience tell you that there's an issue, you need to listen.
Yeah.
I can't speak for someone who may, suffer from seizures and needs to have a softer type of straw. So our stance on that is if you do a straw ban, you still have to make it not a hard one, where stores can still have plastic straws on site to make exceptions for people with that need. And we've looked up all of it where it's like, metal and bamboo straws can injure someone if they have a seizure. Plastic straws or paper straws might not be durable depending on the temperature of the drink or whatever it is.
Right.
So for that demographic, plastic straws are a necessity, and it's like that's such a small portion of the population.
Right.
It's like absolutely we can make that exception. That makes their life easier. And some people, if they don't have a straw to be able to use, they may not be able to drink. Yeah. And that's horrible. So yeah, for sure, it needs to be just a softer regulation.
What's the end goal? Like where do you want to take Zero Waste OKC? Do you want to do something where there's like a physical product or monetize it, or what's the end goal?
At some point it could become a nonprofit, and I've seen other groups in a similar vein doing that. We've actually had a lot of people who are interested in donating or sponsoring, and we're not even set up in that way yet. Right. So we're just kind of like, whoa, this is too fast. But that's probably where it could go. I do want to see, propel Oklahoma as a leader in zero waste and a leader in, making the economics match with the environmental friendliness. Like they don't have to fight each other, and making the new eco-minded approach just something that's more open for everyone, and not just, it's just for hippies. That's just so isolating. We are so much about just do what you can if you can, that it leaves it open for everyone.
Yeah, I do want to point out that I'm getting like an internal chuckle that we talk about how it's not just for hippies and stuff, and you kind of got like a pretty psychedelic shirt going on there.
Right.
That would just kind of like say, that's not just for this, but this is cool too.
Well, and when I went to that news interview, I made sure to try and appear a little more toned down. I mean, seriously, because I didn't want people watching the show and thinking, oh, this blonde hippie up here just trying to do whatever. It's like, no, like this is serious, and toning it down a little bit.
It's a recognition that, appearance does matter.
Yeah.
And
every other day that I wear psychedelic stuff all the time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So let's tie the two together. As the creative director of a firm where you actually, need products and your clientele develops a product, but also as the running Zero Waste OKC, like have you come into a situation where you're like conflicted about something? So like if you were to as a hypothetical, like if you were to design a product like a disposable coffee cup or something like that, but you also have this other passion, like how would you reconcile that?
It does come down to the do what you can if you can. Yeah. So I can control myself as a consumer, and I can try to raise issues with other businesses of, hey, maybe make a smarter choice here. Like we had an example where someone wanted to send out a bunch of direct mail, just to try and reach new customers. And
because it's 2018. Sorry, I just got to put that out. Like, I mean, for real, direct mail.
Yep. And so I was just kind of like, one, that point. Two, is this really like how you want to be reaching people? Is this an effective way to reach you as a consumer? And it was like, no.
Because it's got like, sorry, we learned this in business school. Direct mail has like, what, a 5% success rate? Or maybe even less?
Exactly.
And that was back in 2008, so I can't even remember. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but I do try and support if there's different ways or different choices where they can do things, but ultimately it's their business, their choice, and they're going to do what's best for them. Not everyone, I'm not trying to control what everyone else does, and especially with zero waste, it's like people coming to us, we want to support the businesses doing good and not tear anyone down for not doing good. As much as we can. So that's how we think we're going to lead that change, is by, hey, giving kudos to those people who are really making smart choices.
Yeah, cool. I probably should edit out my criticism of direct mailers. Oh, that company.
No, leave it for everyone.
Okay, just in case they did it. Fine. You've stoked my ire, direct mailers. Cool. Well, let me end on this. I've got my final 5 questions for you, and I think you would be good for this since you've been so intentional about like being involved in the community, and you also seem like you would have good answers for some of these. I don't know, but I'm just putting that out there. What's your morning routine like?
Morning routine, usually get up, have coffee, and do a little bit of intention setting. Just kind of like pause for like, even if it's like a minute, just be chill, and just kind of not think about anything, and then sort of start to dive into the day.
Okay.
But really it is, and I look up inspiration, like even just browsing Instagram, before I even do anything like checking email or anything like that.
All right.
It's usually just a pretty short-lived process,
Yeah.
but I just find that it's like by not just starting on my to-do list for the day, but keeping that explorative, kind of just looking around, seeing what's going on. I'm a huge political junkie. I love reading the news and like staying up to date with what's going on there. And so
This was a hell of a week for
Hell of a week.
political junkies. I mean,
absolutely.
all right, what's your evening routine like?
I always go to the gym.
Okay.
That's one of those things where it's like your day, you're running around all day, and it's usually like my last push. I'm not really thinking about anything. I just kind of zone out, and I come home and I'm exhausted, and I sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
And then, same kind of thing though. I mean, I'll practice Spanish for like 30 minutes on Duolingo.
Oh, cool.
That's usually a good way to just wind down my brain.
Duolingo's great, isn't it?
It is the best.
It's so good.
Totally. I stop checking emails like usually no more than like an hour or two after I get home.
Yeah.
And definitely at least an hour or two before I go to bed, I won't check my email, stuff like that.
Unrelated to the final 5 questions, you mentioned Duolingo and Spanish, and you can converse in Spanish. You mentioned something like the other day about how you had an entirely Spanish conversation with a woman, and she thought you were from Argentina.
Yes.
Have you been to Argentina?
No.
Oh, okay. It's great.
No, like I said, I'm like a white girl from Houston, just trying to do her best to
Here's the
speak
thing.
Spanish.
So, like, Argentina, if for anyone that doesn't know, ton of white folks down there. So, like, 80% of Buenos Aires is they're Italian, and so they've migrated over from Italy, and a lot of people from Germany, post World War II.
But that's what I've heard is that like Italian or Argentinian is a little more kind of
It's so European.
Yeah,
It's very European.
Yeah.
And right now, the dollar to peso is actually quite favorable. So if there's a time to go,
Oh, yeah.
it's right now. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book?
Yeah.
Oh, recently I read Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, and that book is incredible. So he's the host of The Daily Show. I had never heard about him before he started on The Daily Show.
Right. Oh, me neither.
Knew nothing about his life. And then you read that book.
Yeah.
And about apartheid and what he grew up in, and just you take the worst of segregation and racism and turn it into a systemized system.
Yeah.
That's what he lived through. Like, just he went through extreme poverty, and then where he is today, the host of The Daily Show.
Yeah.
And the fact that the title of the book, Born a Crime, was that it was illegal at the time for blacks and whites to mix. So the fact that he was what they called, I think they called him colored, was the term for a mixed child. He could have been, if he was seen with his black mother or white father, he would have been taken away to an orphanage immediately.
Yeah.
Just for existing between them, because that was a sign of their criminality.
Yeah, he whenever, and I haven't read it, but whenever he was doing press for that, he would tell a story about how he actually got to experience some privilege because his grandma would spank his cousins who were all black, but she wouldn't lay a hand on him because of his whiteness. And I mean, that was like the first example that I had ever heard of that.
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Well, and like just with his identity and his identity with himself and which group of kids do I hang out with, and I mean, and then all the times that he could have died, just like so many bad situations, and then now where he is today. It's just an incredible story that I felt like, wow, I just assumed this kid grew up maybe in a well-to-do family, and then now he's funny, he's got The Daily Show, and he weaves so much humor in the sadness too. Like his mom was shot by her, I think now ex-husband in the face and almost died, and like the amount of just domestic abuse, it was crazy. So incredible story.
Okay, cool. We're gonna check that out. Who's your favorite musical artist?
Music artist?
Yeah.
I like so many things. I kind of listen to everything all over the place. Like a lot of times during the day, I'm listening to a lot of like EDM and house music.
Okay.
But like when I get home, I'll listen to like Thievery Corporation
Sure.
or stuff that's a little more chill. So I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I do love Thievery Corporation's new album that just came out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And since you've been intentional about being in Oklahoma and checking out these houses and stuff, could be a house, could be your work, could be nature. What's your favorite spot in Oklahoma?
That's a tough one. As far as nature goes, I love going to the Wichitas.
Oh, yeah, like Mount
That's
Scott
some of the
and
most
stuff.
fun, like
Yeah.
hiking just in Oklahoma. That's great.
Isn't that amazing when you're down there and you like just see a buffalo? It just like, hey there, guy.
Yeah, and
Or-
it's free, and it's
Yeah.
a free place to go. I mean, a beautiful spot that's free. No, that's incredible. Favorite places like in Oklahoma City, I love 23rd Street in
Yeah.
Paseo. I love the Pump. I think the Pump Haley and Ian have done a really good job of like creating this just neighborhood outdoor space that
Yeah.
people want to hang out. That's approachable.
You got
It's not
dogs. You
too
can bring dogs
fancy.
if you want.
Yeah, and it's just fun, and they do fun stuff like not karaoke, trivia, all these different kinds of things. So they've done such a good job, and I do love the Jones Assembly, partly because they're like family to us as a client, but what their vision for their space and creating something like a national level like that in Oklahoma that hadn't been done here before
Yeah.
was just so cool, and the mix of all the different types of experiences you can have in there is incredible.
Yeah, the Jones Assembly strikes me. It's like very similar to this place in DC that I like to go to a lot called the Hamilton, which is basically, it's just that. It's like a really, really nice restaurant. It's actually pretty affordable, but they also, if you go downstairs, they have a live music venue where they've had like Wanda Jackson and Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
And just, so it's kind of cool that they've been able to do that there.
And one of my other favorites is just the Loaded Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even vegan or vegetarian, but I think they're so pioneering. Them and Holy Rollers, they're so pioneering in taking that mindset and veganism and turning into a concept in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And they were one of the first. Like that's just
Yeah.
super cool, and they've done an incredible job. And even their vibe is a little more like West Coast too.
Yeah,
just
for
when
sure.
you walk in. So.
Are you going to Veg Fest?
No, but I've heard about it. It sounds awesome.
I think we're going to that. We sort of like, I experiment with them. I'm a bad vegan in that I do eat meat sometimes. So there you go.
Well, in Commonplace, the kitchen at Commonplace does lean a little more vegetarian-minded. They don't like overtly say it, but
Right.
they've done a cool job of like being a little more like they did a beet poke, where it's like instead of tuna, which I mean it's just unique. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Well, there you go, guys. Do you have anything that you want to plug before we wrap up here?
I think the only thing is that just Nominee moving downtown. Like
Okay, cool.
we're coming in. We're
When's that
excited.
gonna happen?
That's going to be early October.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah,
Super
we're moving.
fast.
Yeah, for sure. Like so, I just moved down. I just moved into a new house down in the
Congrats.
city. So thank you. We'll be down there, and I think there's so much potential now. I would continue to watch west side of downtown.
Yeah.
All along Classen. Classen's going to totally be filling in. They're going to connect it to the highway.
Yeah.
And I think more is going to start to move even farther west towards Penn.
Yeah.
And then all that's going to continue to grow too. So I think that's just a huge spot.
Yeah, awesome. All right, cool. Well, Natalie Kent, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Are you watching a movie?
No, I'm going to watch Ken Burns.
It's not really good.
You don't think Ken Burns is good?
I don't want to watch Ken Burns. You can't watch Ken Burns.
All right, so on Instagram, check out at ZeroWasteOK for cool ideas about reducing your waste. And check out the Natstronaut for Natalie's just rad drawings and branding projects. We got one episode left of season 2. That's the final episode. That's with Doug Sirocco of Dunlap Cotting. So subscribe now. Check out our back catalog of cool guests. Listen to how this podcast has changed from whatever it initially was, like whatever I imagined it to be, into this slightly more professional piece that it is today. That's not saying anything. The pilot of Seinfeld really all that great, and it definitely morphed in its first season to what it eventually became. I'm not saying this podcast is like the Seinfeld of podcast. And maybe it's the Seinfeld of Oklahoma podcasts. But that's a pretty small pool. Anyway, that's just a thought, something to consider. I'm at R_E_Ross on Instagram. And until next time, don't be a stranger.